Hi everyone, and welcome to this session, Purpose is Everything, at the Can Do Innovation Summit. My name is Hazel Jane, and I am the convener of the Can Do Collective. So we bring together organisations, entrepreneurial support organisations across Scotland, and we look at that through a lens of more than just the economy, but kind of well-being and the kind of national performance framework as a whole. So it's really exciting to be here and kind of dive into this topic a bit more. Before I introduce our speakers and the session a little bit more, just a tiny bit of housekeeping. You should be able to see there are closed captions if you need them just below. And there is a live Q&A. This is a live session, anything could happen. So there is a live Q&A at the end. If you use the panel on the right-hand side of your screen, I will see those questions. So please do put them in there. It's great to have these speakers with us here in this exact moment. So let's take advantage of it. So purpose, we've all heard about purpose. I think this is not the kind of shiny, new, exciting business word that it maybe once was a few years ago. We hear about purpose over profit. We hear about the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit. So we kind of know all of this stuff. And there are buzzwords and there is acting on those words and what they mean. So while I see that people are more kind of conscious of purpose, baking it retrospectively into an organization is a lot easier said than done. And actually building a business from the ground up that does need to make money and pay its staff and make profit eventually is also a lot easier said than done when you're trying to put purpose in there as well. So with all aspects of business, it really helps to learn from people who have trod that path before us and who have seen the challenges and seen the opportunities there. So if you also feel slightly hopeless when you still see all white male boards, or you see sectors that are moving too slowly, or just things that are so clearly not aligned with the vision, then hopefully this panel today will give you a little bit of hope and a little bit of support and some more information. So without further ado, I would love to welcome our panel, Melina, Shannon-DiPietro from MAD, Ryan Cochrane from Good Loop, and Dr. Helen Wright from Changing the Chemistry. Hello everyone, nice to see you all, and thank you so much for being here. Now, I'm aware that this session is going to absolutely fly by, so I just want to jump in and ask you to just give maybe a brief introduction about yourself and about the business or the organisation that you're here representing. So Melina, can we start with you? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm so excited to dive in, but I forgot to press the mute button. But Hazel, thank you so much. Really glad to be here with you all. And so I'm the executive director of MAD. MAD in Danish is the word for food, but we say this word in English. We're a global organization, so we say it with its English pronunciation, in part because it has for us this connotation not just of food, this translation, but of being a bit wild, being very dedicated, maybe madly in love and impassioned, but also a bit fed up with the status quo. And our organization was founded back in 2011, really on a volunteer basis. It came out of Restaurant Noma, which has this history for excellence and exploration and a commitment to protecting natural resources. It's also, it's won the best restaurant award in the world 5 times in its 20-year history. So, I mean, it's a little bit like winning a gold in the Olympics, right? But Renee, the founder there, Renee Redzepi, saw that there was a real hunger within hospitality for a greater sense of purpose. And as we look at it, in Europe alone, there's 8 million people working in hospitality. And if you can just think about the power, if each of those people dares to believe they can be part of the solution in some of our big challenges. And I mean, we know those on climate. We know food is a huge contributor to climate change. We know we need better communities that are more equitable and more just. So we have a with these very big ambitions. We founded a very modest organization. We're a team of 10 now. But what we're doing is developing programs for everyone working in hospitality, no matter the level of the restaurant. Could be a neighborhood bistro, a canteen in a workplace, a Michelin star, and bringing front and back of house and sommeliers and baristas and the like together to learn the skills, the knowledge, and the mindsets to make a difference. So we're now 24 months into running our MAD Academy. We'll have another 400 students through that program this year. It's a 5-day intensive, and we're seeing already how quickly they go out into the world to put this knowledge into action. So
amazing, thank you so much. And I just felt everyone that's watching this type Noma into their search bar, like, I need to make a booking there or something. I really like felt that, because that's what I'm going to do after this. Thank you so much. Ryan, can I come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Ryan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Goodloop. Goodloop is an advertising technology platform, which was set up to try and help brands connect with consumers in ethical, meaningful ways. We came to market late 2016, hot on the heels of Cambridge Analytica, Trump, and all those bad things, but we're beyond them now. And ultimately, we want to try and address the value exchange in advertising. Ultimately, people have been taking advantage for a long time. And the way that we do that is that every time someone watches one of our ads, they unlock a donation to charity. And that has raised over £3 million in the last few years. It's been super exciting watching us expand. We became the first B Corp within our sector, which was a journey in itself. And trying to explain that to big brands has been a real, an endeavor. But yeah, that's us.
Amazing, thank you. And I hope we'll dive into that more later. And Helen, how about you?
Oh, well, it's very nice to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me. I wear a number of hats, all of them very purposeful. And the hat I'm wearing today is that of President of Changing the Chemistry. Changing the Chemistry is a Scottish-based charity of SCIO, and we've been around for 10 years and have around 700 members. And our purpose is to improve governance and boards by supporting diversity of thought in boards. I've had a great deal of success in that, because over the past 10 years, we've had almost 300 people. We've helped 300 members become board members, and over 30 people become chairs. So there's a lot of work going into there, looking at the purpose of boards, how people are able to do the best on boards, and supporting, therefore, numerous companies in their search for meaning and purpose as well. And my personal background is in education. So I work now as a school leader for a number of years, and I work in international education as a recruiter and I'm non-executive on a number of boards. So every day I'm trying to make the world a better place.
Thank you so much. And I don't know what this says about me and where I'm at in my life, but I think boards are so fascinating, and someone, maybe you, could write a book on the happenings and the goings on of boards and what happens kind of behind the curtains. I would love to read it. And I think I'll come back to you, Helen, and this is a question that will come to all of you, which is, so I know what your organisation is doing, but I would love to know why you do what you do. And we talk about, start with why, and I just want to kind of centre in on that for this moment. Why do you do this?
So if you're asking me that question, Hazel, I would say it's really, really clear. I do it because exactly what I said, it may have sounded flippant, but it's not flippant. It is about trying to make the world a better place. And I think that you do that and can do that as sort of concentric circles out locally, nationally, and globally. And it's about having impact. So we have impact when we walk down the street and we smile at somebody. We have even more impact, that can be a lot of impact in its own right. We have a huge amount of impact if on a board we are responsible for helping to shape the direction of a company and ensure that that company is working with integrity, that it's representative of the people who are served by that company, that organization. And that's one of the things, that's why I'm involved in boards. I believe it's so important to do that. So I'd encourage every organization, I know there are quite a few, there are lots of companies supported who by this organisation who will be watching and listening at the moment, I really encourage you to think about who are the people on your board and how are they helping you achieve the purpose that you want to achieve. Put it at the heart of it, put purpose at the heart of it, and I believe actually fundamentally it will come right. You've just got to work it through. So that's why I do what I do. Thank
you. And I absolutely love that, because I think boards, you know, there is a kind of a way that someone can buy their way onto a board, or it becomes something that happens a bit later down the line, and that there's not a huge amount of thought, but actually the people that represent on that board can completely change the direction and the support that you have when you're building your business. So thank you so much for raising that. Melina, why do you do what you do?
Oh, what a good question. And I want to just comment on Helen's before I dive in. The MAD organization is looking for board members local to Denmark and in the US. But I really love, Helen, that you mentioned the impact of the way we walk down the street, right? I think so often, and this is good, but I hear board members and corporate leaders ask, where's the scale, right? How are you going to make this an enterprise that serves hundreds of thousands of people? And I think that's worthy. But one of the reasons I do this is because I so much believe in the impact of education, right? I think learning, curiosity, creating room for new values is some of the most important work we can do. And it happens to be that the hospitality community is one I care about. It's one I care about because I appreciate the everyday richness and sort of conviviality that restaurants bring to us. It's one I care about because both my mom and my brother have worked in restaurants, and I've seen firsthand how difficult it can be. And because I can see at the same time how much joy and passion there is. And so I love thinking about each of these restaurants, whether it's at a gigantic fast casual scale or a small neighborhood, can be a force in its own right for making the lives of the people who work there and the people who visit as customers and the suppliers a better place on all levels.
Thank you. And haven't we seen during the pandemic that, I mean, the hospitality industry has been pretty brutal, but also that people love it. You know, people want experiences, people want to go and share dinners and go to fantastic places. And it's this like totally, it feels like a really undernourished industry at the moment that has all the potential to become a leader in purpose. And it's just takes people like you and your organizations to make that happen. So thank you. And Ryan, how about you? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think, you know, Helen and Melina have really covered a lot of it off. The only real thing I'd add on is that because it's really fun. Like, I know that might sound silly, but if you're like me and you like to play the computer game on hard mode, that's basically what it is, right? At scale, you know, you're trying to do things the hard way. You're trying to sort of change something. You're trying to take something that someone said you can't do and do it. And yeah, that's always exciting to me. That's my biggest motivator, is when someone tells me that I'm not allowed to do something, then that's when I want to do it. So yeah, I've really enjoyed just being able to, challenge norms, and yeah, it's been fun.
I totally love that, but I also want to reassure everyone watching that if you, like me, play games on easy mode, we still belong here in the purpose world. But no, I love that. I completely love that perspective. And we need everyone to feel like that and think like that, right? So we've looked at why, and I'm really keen, and again, I'm conscious of time, but I'm keen to just get a little bit into the nitty gritty, because we see you as three organizations that have really done it and have really kind of made it, as it were. But actually, I know from working with scaling businesses that this is not an easy ride, and you've kind of alluded to that, Ryan. So I would really love to know, just what did it take? Like, whose buy-in, how much buy-in, whether that's monetary or something else, what did it take to get something purpose-driven actually off the ground? Melina, can I come back to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, I feel like we're still making it, right? We've had many different phases as an organization. And in so many ways, in the early days, the first 5 years of the organization, it was Renee saying to the restaurant team at Noma, we're going to do X, we're going to do Y, who will volunteer? And then he realized that you can't quite create the scale of change we hope for in that particular way, forcing your employees to volunteer. It's not a very sustainable model. So in 2016, I came on board and we began to look at what is it that we want to create truly. We wanted to move beyond a symposium and create a more ongoing educational institution. Who is it we want to impact and what are the resources we need? And there have been, two sets of people have really stepped in to make the difference. One is the Danish government here. The Ministry of Food and Environment has played a huge role in supporting us financially. And the other is individual philanthropists who simply think the restaurant world has a role to play in making the world a better place. In terms of what it takes, I will say that right now, and this is maybe a challenge of a small organization, right now I'm really conscious as we go through some hiring and some growth, I'm really conscious of how much great talent is needed in the field, how much in small organizations you really rely on people who are willing to work at all levels, right? The strategic and the super nitty gritty, right? And I'm also conscious about how much in a small team, one person can shift the organization's momentum. And so it's really that right now is, I feel like, where my learning is as a leader. And it's really fun. Yeah. So
love that. Thank you. And Helen, can I come to you?
Yes, it's so much easier if you start with purpose, I would say. That if you have purpose really at the heart of what it is you're trying to do from the outset, I think that makes it a lot easier rather than trying to discover or rediscover your purpose. So I would say that's the first thing that's really important. Second thing is that you do need people who really believe in it. One of the charities that I chair, we're growing our board at the moment, and we're growing our team actually of people at the moment. And one of the things there is that our prime concern is finding people who really get the purpose. It's a very powerful charity working on we mentor students with disadvantage in secondary schools in Edinburgh and the Lothians, but we do that from a way of, it's about inspiring with learning. So in igniting a love of learning. So we need somebody who's not going to come in and just see this as an organization. We need somebody, people are going to come in and go, yeah, totally get that. I like doing the hard stuff. You're sure what Ryan was saying, which made me smile so much. Yeah, I like doing that. We're going to be pushing against kind of prevailing winds here in some ways. We've got something that really matters. And yes, we're totally up for the challenge. So getting the right people in place, starting with purpose, getting the right people in place, and then the challenge. And that certainly we have in Changing the Chemistry, it's Changing the Chemistry has grown. We've got all these people now. It's like, how do you keep engaging people to the same extent as you do when you're smaller? So for us, we've been going through a process, the board, of making sure that we're able to raise the money so that we can pay people to do things properly, at the heart of it, to have a core executive team. And also, it's our platform, it's our engagement platform. For us, it's all about member engagement. So that's what we're looking at renewing at the moment. So it's about always thinking about what it is we're really about first, then how do you do it? Constantly scanning that to make sure, how do we do this well? What do we need? And I do believe that there's always a solution to everything. And if you put your mind to it, you're always going to find that solution. So let's keep going.
That's great. I love that. And I'm really hearing that people is so important. So far you've both said that just finding the right people is like the pivotal kind of piece in it. And Ryan, do you agree with that? Or are there other things that you feel that you needed to build Good Loop?
No, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. When I look at what we've achieved so far, I'm hugely proud of the money we've raised for charity. What I'm most proud of is the people that I work with every day. That sounds so cheesy, and I feel myself cringe inside as I say it, but I genuinely do. I'm really lucky to get to work with people who, they really energize me, who believe in sort of the mission in terms of what we're trying to achieve, who have, they've signed up for to try and do this in a difficult space, and that's great. During COVID, there was some real solidarity around how we, kind of came together, as a group, while some of our competitors started to fall away in that time, whereas we really doubled down and worked together, and it was great. I think, I can't remember who it was that said it, but I think it was a few years ago that someone said that people are your only sustainable competitive advantage. And I think that's really true. For us as a for-profit business, ultimately, we need people who share our vision, and that extends to investors as well. Candidly, we kissed a lot of frogs, but the people that we have supporting us now are the ones who identified that, giving half the revenue isn't a crazy decision, it's an investment. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets the idea of make less. And it's really encouraging when we get to work with people who share that vision and are really willing to put their money where their mouth is. It's a privilege to get to work with these people.
Amazing, thank you. I've got a sort of half-formed thought in my head around the pandemic and the kind of great resignation that came out of the pandemic, because people were just kind of stuck. They'd been in the same place for years, or their workplace had changed, or kind of whatever. So just if anyone wants to jump in and answer, have you found that people are more wanting to work in your organizations since that kind of pandemic-y great resignation, that people are like, I have to do something with purpose, or I'm just sitting in my living room all day, every day? Is that right? Or does it just feel like an organic growth? Helen?
I can certainly say that from the perspective of looking at people who are looking to shift careers and do something different from what they were doing before, when I look at it from my own recruitment work, purpose and meaning really, really does matter. And it's become really clear to people. So although I'm not speaking at this from the perspective of this is an organisation, come and work for us, because we support people to go and work in other organisations, absolutely seen that since the pandemic. It was always there, and there was always a period of time in people's lives, and it may be in their late 20s or their 30s or 40s, somewhere where people go, is this really what I want to do? And that's why people develop often portfolio careers, and they go into board roles and so on. But since the pandemic, I've totally seen that. You see people making choices in their lives which they wouldn't have considered doing before, because they want to do something that's worthwhile. I think it's brought us perhaps to face with our own mortality in some ways. And it's like, well, life is too short not to be doing something meaningful.
We can just finish the panel with that sentence. We'll come back to that. Ryan or Melina, do you have anything that you want to add to that? It's a bit of a mic drop moment, but if you have something to add.
I feel like anything I add is just wasting it, isn't it, really? I think one thing I definitely would want to add on is that what we've seen is our younger talent have been super motivated by what we do. Mm-hmm. Older talent have been as well, but especially at that sort of kind of graduate, kind of new to market entry level. We've seen people who have been super engaged. We've had some really just driven, smart, fantastic applicants that have came to us because they're so motivated by the mission. It's quite humbling, to be honest, to be able to see that coming to us. It's definitely made recruitment, especially at those levels, it has made things a lot faster and a lot easier. We know that we can fill positions quickly with smart, switched on people.
Love that. Melina?
Yeah, I would add, I would look at this, I think at MAD as an organization, we're certainly finding more senior people come to us who have this sense of purpose and want employment that reflects that sense of purpose. The other piece that I would add is that as I look at the restaurant industry, right, across the globe, it has been hard hit. There's now a labor crisis in Scotland, in Britain, in France, in Denmark, in Sweden, in the US, and in other countries as well. And what I'm seeing is the pandemic has forced employers to look at questions they've been unfortunately, and perhaps understandably, but definitely unfortunately, willing to ignore for too long, around questions of staff hours, questions of good work environment, questions of integrating their staff into management decisions. And so I see really promising signs, incredibly well-established, talented restaurateurs in Paris saying, actually, we were forced to look at our labor model so we could figure out how to give everyone raises, and we've done it. And that's happening as Paris comes out of the pandemic. And the pressure is real right now. I think people are still suffering in the hospitality industry, but I'm looking forward to seeing how people use this moment to embrace purpose.
I really love that. And it feels like that kind of goes back to what Ryan was saying earlier of, actually, you know, we've done it this way for such a long time. People are just used to hospitality being minimum wage. Like that's just been the kind of the baseline. And actually we need people that say, I'm going to play this on hard mode. And I'm going to say, why is it like that? And as someone that worked for many years in hospitality, it was one of my most loved jobs and one of the ones that was so wildly underpaid that I could never stay in it. But I actually loved looking after people, and I loved hospitality, and I loved the whole community of it. So it's amazing to see that maybe we can have it all, you know, maybe people can make it into a career and have purpose, and the planet, you know, there as well. Like I just think that there is hope, and it may be hard to get there, but it's awesome that we're having this mindset, and that I think I was a bit frustrated for a while with people maybe a bit too early in the pandemic being like, what are the opportunities? And I was like, no, there's no opportunities just this second. But actually now I do think that that's shifting, and there are opportunities for us to reshape things that have been done the wrong way for too long. So thanks for that. I'm going to come back to you, Ryan. So we are at the Innovation Summit. And let's talk about innovation. So you are the kind of tech company in the room. How have you used innovation to bring purpose to the forefront? And what innovation do you hope to use in the future?
Oh, no pressure. Yeah. Like I think probably one of the kind of the more exciting things that we've kind of like launched in the last year, so it's something that we've called is the green ad tag. And basically what this is it allows advertisers to measure the emissions of their digital advertising. We came across an alarming stat that 4% of kind of the global emissions comes from the internet. And that's going to double by 2025, which is already more than the global airline industry. That's quite scary. Advertising is only one small part of that, but ultimately it's it's the very kind of like tip of the spear for a brand, and how they kind of interact with people. And so we wanted to give a way to do that, a way to sort of offset that, a way to make a more kind of climate positive contribution. I think that's been like a real theme for us, is trying to find sort of tech innovations as to how we can better benefit society. There's lots of really cool stuff going on just now. If you look at likes of ecology, especially in the sort of the climate space, who are doing some fantastic work around tree planting, all sort of greenhouse gas emission calculators. I feel like everyone has a different one every other week. It's a really kind of interesting space. I think where we're going to see, let's say, most sort of tech innovation is probably going to be in supply chain. I think that's probably where we need most tech innovation for kind of the better world. Across sort of things like agri-tech, I think is super interesting as a space just now. Logistics as well. Sorry, I feel like I'm not really answering a question here, but yeah.
That I think that's really fascinating and really true. And also, I think we can all admit that the word innovation is this kind of unwieldy beast of like, okay, I kind of know what it means, but there's no like specific thing of like, this is innovation and this isn't. So I think you did great, Ryan. Thank you. And Helen, how about you? Do you use tech? Are you leveraging tech to kind of innovate your sector, or what does that look like from your perspective?
Well, I mentioned that we were in Changing Chemistry, where we're making sure we've got a good member engagement platform. But actually, the innovation that we need is sometimes a bit more basic than that, because you'd think that by now it wouldn't be terribly innovative to know that to have a diversity of thought on boards was a good thing. And the fact that you'd think that people have worked out by now that having a diversity of perspectives around the table would be a good thing. But it's remarkable how many boards haven't worked that out yet. So we may be back there a little bit, still working on this, getting this message in. So innovation starts with human beings. And that's really where we're coming in. You can have as many, particularly when you look at education, or look at anywhere, you can have as many technical aspects to this as you like, but fundamentally, we've got to get the innovation going on in people's heads.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. That's such a fantastic answer. And it always makes me think of this wild contrast that we exist in, and the kind of paradox that we exist in at the moment, where billionaires are like competing in space, but then like really basic things don't get done in sort of standard organizations. And it's we kind of moved so quickly that we were like, you know, things were falling off the trolley as we were moving, and now we're kind of like, right, let's just reverse a little bit and pick up those things that actually really matter. So I really like that, and I do completely agree that innovation, you know, it's innovation, and you can imagine like a little robot running around and some AI, but actually, are we thinking innovatively at the absolute basic level of who is in the room, and are we treating them with respect, and what comes next? So thank you so much for that answer. And Melina, how about you? How is MAD using innovation / technology? What does that look like?
So on the technology side, one of our programs is called Wild Food Vilmau. And that program actually gets people out into nature, particularly people in hospitality, understanding what edible plants are and how to bring them back in the kitchen, right? So using tech to give people a very tactile outdoors sensory experience. On the innovation piece, I would share, I mean, we often attempt to practice an idea that Renee has within our team. And he says, for creativity, and so I'll take innovation towards creativity, it is for every 10 ideas you have in as an input, you get one great new idea out. So making sure that we're taking time as a team to re-inspire ourselves on our purpose and learn all the way through, so that we're more fresh for the people who are coming to us to learn.
Amazing. I don't want to gush about you three too much, but I think you're all just absolutely incredible. And I think that's another fantastic point, just right, bringing edible plants back into the kitchen. To me, there is this real renaissance of people wanting to kind of earth a bit. So yes, we have all of this tech innovation, and that's fantastic, but if it can enable us to remember who we are as human beings and sit around a fire and sing, and you know, have these plants that have been around for such a long time, isn't that the real win, rather than just having the tech that does really techie things? So I just love this conversation, and it's totally not where I thought it would end up. So I'm like absolutely delighted. So we have about 12 minutes left. There is time for Q&A. So if you are watching, please do use the Q&A bar now, and I'm monitoring it. There's nothing in there this second, so I'm kind of glaring at everyone watching, but I have more questions. So that's absolutely fine if people just want to have a think and then type them in. I would love to know what the future looks like for your businesses, what you're really aiming to do maybe in the next 6 to 12 months. So Helen, can I come back to you?
Yes, well, we're really seeking to make sure that we are able to help people with more diverse experiences, more diverse backgrounds, to be able to feel that they can put themselves forward onto board. So we help support people in that. We coach them, we provide them with opportunities, mentors, with groups that they can come to. And we really want to make people realize that they can have confidence in putting themselves forward to boards. We're also working with more organizations to make sure that they will be able to make boards more diversity friendly. And this is not a box ticking exercise. This is about really appreciating the value of diversity of thought. So we have ambitious plans to keep moving forward, and we want to engage all of our members and more, and grow. And I would encourage people, if they're watching and they're maybe in an organization which is growing, and they're thinking, how do I get a good board around that? Just come to us. It's absolutely free for people to advertise their positions on boards with Changing the Chemistry. So do come, and it's a great experience to join a board. So that's about coming and being part of it. We do ask people to volunteer as part of that, and we want to encourage that really healthy throughput. So yeah, got lots to do the next 6 to 12 months and beyond.
Amazing, thank you. And Ryan, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, thank you. I think for us, the name of the game for the next 6 to 12 months will be growth and expansion, especially to the US. I think over the last year, I think in our market especially, it used to be that you had to have a boots on the ground presence. I think, absolutely, yeah, talking about opportunities in COVID leaves me feeling uncomfortable as well. But certainly for us developing into the US, it was a great equalizer. So now that we've started to be able to get some traction going there, that's really where we're doubling down this year. So yeah, more of the same, and hopefully that leads to good outcomes. I think we should hopefully cross over 6-7 million raised for charity by the end of the year if it all goes well, and that's really exciting stuff.
That's incredible. Thank you. And Melina?
The next 6 to 12 months look really great. So here in Copenhagen, in our academy space, we're expecting another 400 students to come through the door. I'm really looking forward to hearing from them and from the students we've had over the last 18 months tell us how this program is having an impact out in the world, in their everyday life, and in an ongoing way. How do we see it changing their leadership practices, their financial practices, and their environmental practices? We'll be taking a taste of our programming on the road, pun intended there. So we'll visit rural communities in Denmark because we're finding we're getting lots of applicants from Denmark's cities and fewer from rural communities. And then we'll also be going to Los Angeles. And so, our audience is global. I love that right now the students sitting in the next room represent India, Korea, Denmark, Norway, the US, the UK, and we hope to continue that. And then we'll be looking for a handful of corporate partnerships, really people who are interested in investing in this field and investing in what hospitality has to offer. And so I think the future is really bright, and we're looking forward to more.
I love that. Thank you so much. So there's I've kind of got a question brewing around the idea of competition in purposeful business. So we have Good Loop, which is incredible. Ryan, do you want 10 more Good Loop type advertising agencies, or is that exactly what you don't want? How can the rest of the industry bring purpose in without just killing your business? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. My personal view on it is that it's all boats rise. The more people come into this space doing similar things to what we do, the more it becomes a normal behavior, the more it becomes expected. And we like to think that as kind of first movers in this space who have developed a bit of a reputation in our industry as the experts on it, that we'll continue to serve clients well. If it turns out that a bigger fish comes along and replicates what we do, but it ends up being that they send hundreds of millions to charity instead, great. That's fine. I can sleep easy with that. Yeah.
I was like,
but yeah.
And Helen, same goes. Do we need 100 changing the chemistries, or do we need one with lots of funding and support? How do we make this industry? How do we make it as big as it can be?
Oh, I think as many people as possible to be engaged in this space. I think that we need it almost to be at a point where something like changing the chemistry isn't needed, because we have then changed the chemistry. And it's something that's what I suppose our ultimate goal is. Because if you've got that and you've got routes to help people know that they can grow into really decent board members, they can understand what it is that's needed of them, that their values are appreciated, and their diverse perspectives are actually actively sought out, and they have a real contribution to make. Well, actually, I think the whole world will be so much better anyway. So yes, bring it on. The more the merrier.
Love to hear it. Okay, Melina, same feeling?
Absolutely, the more the merrier, right? I think it only help us create the type of change we want to see in the world. It can only help our organizations be better at that change, right? One of the ideas we teach our students is a sigmoid curve of innovation, right? You're building, you get better, and then you plateau, and that's where decline starts to happen for an organization. And I think having many people in the field, it pushes that creativity. Competition is great.
I was waiting for one of you to be like, everyone else step off, we've got this. But but you're all far too lovely and purposeful for that. And there's an interesting question in the chat here, which is there such a thing as too much purpose? How do you quantify the things that drive you? Anyone want to jump into that?
I'll take it. I mean,
yeah.
I think we really confuse, we can confuse that purpose does not mean without results, right? And it doesn't mean without measuring impacts. The thing I was working on before this was actually helping my fundraising director and one of our student admissions officers think about what their KPIs are, how they break down over the course of the year. I think we can balance these things. I think we've got to balance these things for the sake of the world.
I think that's a fantastic response. Helen, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, so I was agree. Purpose is purposeful. So if you've got a purpose, then you're going to keep driving forward with that purpose towards the end. So I don't think there's so much thing as too much. Different people have different purposes there, and we class them under this general umbrella of purpose. And I really don't think you can have too much of that, because there's something that I do believe, and this probably goes back to my education background as well, that there's something in the human psyche where we are at our best when we are striving to do things better. And that's almost how we've been fashioned to be. So I think, yeah, absolutely. Let's keep working forward with purposeful purpose.
Great. Ryan, anything you want to add on to the end of that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's difficult, you know. I think for us, you know, when we're going to market and, yeah, ultimately trying to get brands to kind of commit to the fact that 50% of their spend with us is going to go to charity, that can be a difficult conversation. Usually, though, brands get it, and they get it because the ads perform better than their other adverts. So it makes it a lot easier to understand. So I think you need that bit of kind of cold pragmatism underneath it all. It can't just be doing good for the sake of doing good. If you want to scale and want it to succeed, it has to become a fundamental part of the business. It's got to be, yeah, it shouldn't show up as a cost, I think is the point. It should show up as, yeah, an investment.
Love that. Thank you. We've got 3 minutes left. There's a really interesting question in the chat about this world of, like, there's so much information, there's so many different perspectives, and that means that sometimes new information comes out, or the world just changes. Words that were maybe really fine to use 20 years ago are not fine to use anymore. Can you comment on how, you know, a really kind of driven, purposeful business is also able to kind of shift if they need to based on new information? Again, if anyone wants to jump in on that.
I think that's about making sure that you're constantly interrogating what it is you're doing, why you're doing it. And I think that at the core of any purposeful organization is that question, you know, why are we doing this? Is it what we were meant to do? Is it what we set out to do? Is it what's really needed? And asking those questions purposefully as well. I think if you get that at the heart of it, you have those systems and those structures in place in order to make that happen. That's how you're going to keep that question really alive. And of course, really good education behind it, and the ability to be able to think, reflect, critically evaluate, all of those skills that we're seeking to build in our young people as they come through. All of that is really essential for the future. So keep asking the question, why?
Thank you so much. Melina, Ryan, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, Ryan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that Helen covered it off, pretty beautifully. Nothing to add at my end.
I heard also in the question, in addition to what Helen said, a question of, we're in a time when social norms have changed pretty significantly. I would say the most quickly that I've seen in my 43 years, or at least someone will correct me, but this is what I'm seeing. And working in an international organization, I can also see that different cultures are ready for different conversations in different moments, right? The 2018 restaurant industry conversation around sexual harassment, which of course was long overdue, is one Denmark is starting right now in a meaningful and deep way. And I think we as organizations, this interrogation, this education, and then ongoing communication with our teams about how to change. That type of change is complicated, right? Working with a cross-cultural team around understanding what we want the world to look like in terms of diversity takes effort, and it's worthwhile effort.
Love that. Okay, we are at 11:40, so the time has come. I'm so gutted this could have gone on for way longer. And there's a couple more questions, and I'm so sorry that we didn't get to them, but thank you so much for asking, and you can put them in the chat earlier next time, and we'll definitely get to them. Thank you so much, Melina, Helen, Ryan. It's been so great to speak to you. I don't know if any of you have any final words, but I'm very happy to leave it with what Helen said earlier, which I think was life is too short not to have purpose, or something very similar to that. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit as well.